Hello, thank you for tuning in. You are tuned in to The Encourager, and my name is Nehru. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you're doing well whenever you find yourself listening to this, and hopefully you are growing and expanding your territory. I remember reading something about, and this is something that's ringing loud with me today. And so what I was going to do was I was going to share the book of Enoch, chapters 14 through wherever Most High has me stop. However, I think I'm going to wait and share what's Most High's wanting, what Most High is wanting me to say. I'm strongly encouraged to do that. So, our past tells our future. Okay? And so, and I'm getting this download as I'm sharing it with you. So, although it's, since I've been awake, it's something that has been at the forefront of my focus, my heart, my spirit, what have you. Our past tells our future. And it can go either way. So our past can tell about a future full of regret, full of missed opportunities. Our past can tell our future. The choices that we have made, the choices that we've allowed others to make for us, and all the things that I've mentioned over the last year that so easily keep us bound to unfortunate situations and people that really do not have our best intentions. And often, despite us seeing these trends, we are reluctant or feel powerless to stop them. This is how karmic ties continue. Or our past can tell a different future. Our past can point us to the challenges that helped us to become the mighty men and women that we are truly supposed to be here. When I was a part of the Rock of Central Florida, there was a lady there. And her name is Linda Reichert. Linda Reichert, and that's with an R. Because there was a Weichert family there too. But Linda Reichert, she passed in 2009. And actually while she was in Mexico, she was there for a trial treatment for the cancer that was taking her body. But Linda, I got there physically to the Rock in 2003. I don't know why I keep wanting to say 2020 something, but it was actually 20 years ago. So it was 2020. See, 2003 when I physically got there. And again, I was getting cassette tapes for about 4 months while I was in military intelligence school at Fort Huachuca in Arizona. And I don't know who started the phrase. I just remember her calling me this. And her daughter would call me this from time to time. Her name is Kim. And she would call me Mighty Man, right? And maybe that was a phrase that they just used as a house back then. I'm not sure. But when I got there, I heard that phrase. And for some reason, it stands out that Linda called me that. I don't know why. She used to handle the cassette tapes again. That's what I was getting back in 2003. The recordings of the messages and services and things like that, and they would mail them to me because at the time I was seeing a lady who was a civilian, but in Florida, and she was guided to that place that at the time that was a storefront. And I remember, and Linda passed on Mother's Day weekend of 2009, by the way. I remember, or Mother's Day week, maybe not Mother's Day week or weekend. I specifically kind of remember it being the weekend, actually. And I know I have that written in a journal somewhere. And our past can help us to become or point us in the direction of that mighty individual that is within us. Okay? And again, I'm not the only person that they called that. So it's not something that was like terribly unique to me or anything, but it just stands out to me that in my communication with her that she would call me that often, and maybe the most often is maybe that's why, more than anyone else. So, and again, that's not to say I was the only one, right? She has a son. His name is James, and she called him Two-Ton, and I don't know the story behind that. And he probably doesn't even know that I know that, but I do. And so, and I know for a fact that that's extremely endearing to him. And so what do I mean by our past being able to point us to the good or the prize that should we choose to stay the course? Okay. I'm drinking my tea. Side note, I found, this is interesting. It's another example of how when you are spiritually guided, you don't need science. Science is just a confirmation. That's what it should be anyway. Science should just be a confirmation. And not the rule, like not the guide. Science should not be the guide. So for I don't know how many months now, I've been drinking this ginger, turmeric, and then tea, and then I would put pepper in it, right? And even maybe sometimes a little more turmeric, depends. And the other day, I was looking on a news feed or something, and maybe it was on Facebook, because I joined this page that talks about natural remedies. I'm into that sort of thing. So I'm a huge supporter of taking turmeric and not some manufactured pill for your arthritis. You know, I'm very, 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 very much into that. One day I hope to have greenhouses and grow my own thing. That's why I'm a live off the grid kind of person. I'm not, the city's great to go and to shop and to visit and to eat and to explore and all of that, but I'm definitely a grow my own tomato. I don't care for tomatoes, but I'm definitely a grow my own tomato kind of person. But I found out that when you combine ginger and pepper, specifically ginger and pepper, the tremendous benefits of what it does in eliminating and ridding your body of toxins, again, inflammations, and things. And I just did it just because I was just guided by Holy Spirit. I didn't read that before I started doing this months ago. Yeah, thank you, confirmation, jet or whatever that is flying overhead. Thank you. I didn't get confirmation through science. I just started doing it. And then a couple of days ago, I read how beneficial it is to add pepper to your ginger. And I had no idea, right? And so this is how, and there's a siren. So this is what I mean by your past being able to tell a story about the victories that are to come. So I remember growing up, and I had an uncle who passed, and unfortunately it was by his own hand because of a woman. Or at least that's what I was told. And his name is Kenny, and he was my youngest uncle. He used to call me Dr. Tom. Okay. Now, I don't know, as a kid, I don't know where he got Dr. Tom from. Again, and that's back to back. How rare is that? Did you get two jets like that or planes flying back to back like that? That's in the last 60 seconds. So, today is a marked day, 2/13. Okay. And so was yesterday, 2/12/24, right? That's mathematical perfection, numerology perfection. And so, and the 13th, by the way, represents, again, it represents death. Scorpio in the zodiac is the number 13. Every zodiac sign is associated with a number, by the way. And death doesn't mean the end always. It could, right, depending on that person's disposition spiritually. But it also signifies new beginnings. Okay, because in order for something to begin, something must die. In order for something to be birthed, something must die. There's 250,000 people that die on average throughout the night, every single night. On average, per year, 250,000 people. However, on average, 350,000 babies are born each and every week, day, right? So that number is astronomical as well. Okay? So when you think about that, the 7 to 8 billion people on this earth and 350 babies coming from that on average, that's pretty astronomical. Even if that, to me, even if that's in a year, like, that's pretty astronomical, and it's a lot shorter period of time than that. But 250,000 people die. That's a lot. That's astronomical, right? And so, in order for something to die or something else to be born, something has to die. Okay? I remember growing up, people would tell me that I had an old soul, right? Adults that I would talk to. I always enjoyed talking to the older people. They would tell me that I had an old soul. Your past can indicate your future. And again, in a positive way or in a negative way, again, depending on where you are in your growth process. Okay? So here's my challenge to you. I was thinking back on, and I was really challenging myself to think back on things that I don't think about all the time. People whose friendships I've run across just temporarily, and they really made a mark on my life. I remember I had a platoon sergeant. His name was Stephen James. And this guy, he was my platoon sergeant when I was in 3rd ID at Fort Stewart, and I was in a signal battalion there. And in fact, that was the platoon I went on my deployment with in 2002 when I came back from Germany. I was there literally in the States for about 30 to 35 days and literally back overseas. But again, I wanted to do that. I wanted to go on that deployment. I got my orders changed specifically because that's just how I was. So, met him, and he's definitely, whether he recognized this or not, when I met him, he was still a part of a religious organization, some church in Hinesville, Georgia. But he was exemplary is what comes to mind when I think about him. He was not a man of perfection, like not wanting to make mistakes. He was a man of superior integrity, leadership. He was everybody's out running around and all of that. He's the one studying on how to be a better leader, he was that type of platoon sergeant. And just an exceptional being. And I often think about him, and I remember going to a service at his church once, and he was a deacon at that time at whatever church that was. Here's another one. So, there was a lady there that I met out in the club. Back then, I was clubbing 5 days a week, you know. It was and it was just a thing. I had a friend that was reassigned to Fort Stewart also from Germany. He was in a different company as me from me in Germany and in Georgia. But you know, we hung out and all of that. We were both, he might have been a 31 Romeo. I was a 31 Fox. But his name is Gary Williams. And we hung out, and I remember he had a girlfriend that was from overseas, and I think from overseas, maybe from the States, but she lived overseas because her parents were in the military. Yes, right. And so he flew her over and all of that. And then my girlfriend at the time, whose name was Connie, she flew over and all of that. And so mine was when I got back from deployment. And so, so going out, I remember meeting this woman, and she was out at the club, right? We had a good time, right? And it never went anywhere. First of all, because I'm a gentleman, right? I really am, right? And chivalry is a huge part of the way I carry myself. I hold the door for you, you know, I'm just going to do that. Male or female, it doesn't matter, you know. It's just how I am, right? But I remember I don't remember her name. I barely even remember her face. I remember she had a son, and he was a teenage son, like maybe 16, 17 at the time. And I remember she was having a real good time, if you understand what I'm saying. And I don't know, maybe I was having a light day or something that day, or maybe I saw what, you know, kind of, I don't know. I don't even know how we met. I don't even remember. To me, it seems like we met in a club, and I drove her home. Like, literally, I took her home, right? Made sure she got in the house and all of that. And, like, yeah. And I think I slept on the couch that day. And I remember her son coming in that morning, like, it was this guy on the couch, right? But nothing ever happened. It never went anywhere. And Who knows? Maybe she saved me from getting too wild that night, and maybe I was her angel. I don't know, you know. But I was thinking about that this morning, and I haven't thought about that in a long time. Here comes another one. Here comes another one. That's 4. That's 4. Okay. So, yeah. Just, I'm really, really drawn to just think back on the moments and times that helped identify, or that pointed to the truth of who I am. And again, I'm encouraging you to do that. Those moments, those times. I remember Steve Parker coming up to me one time. And this is after my 2004 to 2006. There was about a year and a half there where I was really, really, really frustrated. Frustrated with Most High, frustrated with civilian life after the military. Civilians sucked. They were horrible. I don't even use the word sucked, but they were horrible. I didn't like the transition. They were undisciplined. I couldn't stand working for civilians and blah, 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 right? I didn't like it. And so I was having all sorts of issues back in between 2004 and 2006. I'm going to tell you another story about a woman who took me in. Let me not lose track of where I'm going with this. So yeah, Steve, thank you. Most time. Oh man. That's 5. Come on now. There's a mission. We're on a mission, collective. 144,000. We're on a mission, healers, divine light workers, star seeds. We are on a mission. So I remember Steve coming to me after I recommitted myself to Most High and telling him, no matter what, I don't care what happens. I don't care what comes my way. I had not gone through dialysis yet. I didn't know a rare autoimmune virus was going to attack my kidneys. I did not know I was going to be on dialysis for 4.5 years. I did not know I was going to run into a false twin that was going to do spell work against me and kill my businesses with smear campaigns and all this witchcraft. And I did not know any of that. And her mother and friends and then the sperm donors, spouse, Janet, Lucas, doing witchcraft against me. I did not know any of that. I knew he was doing witchcraft against me. And I'm sure I was aware that they were probably participating, certainly because they were still with him at that time. And he had not yet been arrested and incarcerated. But Steve came to me. I was in service one day, and we were renting a spot in Lake Mary, Florida, in a building that's called the Strang Building. They are a Christian magazine publisher. And he came over to me in service. We're standing up singing or something. And he kind of signaled for the music to stop, or at least the singing to stop. He came over to me, and he didn't say my name. He just came over to me, and he said, "Everything I have, I give to you." And he said it again, "Everything I have, I give to you." And he came over and he gave me a hug. Okay? I had just recently recommitted myself to Most High. Okay? I remember gentleman Todd Murner. He is the senior minister at the Rock of Northwest Arkansas. You can look him up online. He was one of the guest speakers in 2003. At the Rock. And in 2003, there was like 3 or 4 guest speakers that came, and they confirmed that Most High sent me there to be joined to that people. Steve sent me to that land. Okay? Again, that's Central Florida. Todd Murner said, he said, "Come here, what's your name?" Right? He called me. I told him my name. He was like, He's like, I couldn't help but notice or something, right? He says, "You stand out to me." He says, can you come here? Sure. So I go up. And there's a funny part in that I just remembered. So he says, and I don't remember all of his words verbatim, but I remember him saying specifically that I need to be sitting where Steve is spitting. That's exactly what he said. That was his phrase. You need to be sitting where he is spitting. So they were confirming a divine connection between Steve and I. Jim Schneider said, Most High searched the earth to join me to Steve Parker. He said that in front of the congregation, Steve, Kim, everybody. He said that to me, with me standing up front in front of him, in front of everyone. He said that. Todd Murner called me up front and said, you need to be sitting where Steve is spitting. And he's like, I'm not talking, because I was sitting rows back, because that was me. I was sitting, 5, 6, 7 rows back, right? And he would be like, he was like, okay. And he got done saying what he's saying. And I was like, okay. And I got ready to turn around and walk back to my seat. He said, no. He said, no, stop. No. He said, you did not hear me. He said, you. Yeah, emotional moment. He said, you don't understand me. He said, you need to be sitting on the front row. And I was like, oh, now? Yeah, now. Right? And I was dating Marcia at the time, and who was the woman who told me about the rock. And and I sat up front on the front row for the rest of the service, right? And for years, a lady named Michelle McNamee would remind me, you're supposed to be on the front row. You're supposed to be on the front row. Aren't you supposed to be on the front row every week? Even if I sat on the third row, second row, it didn't matter. She would come up to me. You're supposed to be on the front row. Aren't you supposed to be on the front row? You're supposed to be on the front row. Right? And so I encourage you today on 2/13/24 to go back into the annals of time in your mind, in your spirit. And think about, I remember my last seizure. We were living in the projects. Yeah, I remember my last seizure. And the guy who lived in the house that was just outside the projects, who ran over, I think he had a barber shop. He ran over and he actually put a spoon in my mouth to keep me from swallowing my tongue. Bless you and your family wherever you are, man. And I've said that to him many times. I don't know his name. But yeah, I was 8 years old. That was the last seizure I had. Yeah. And so do that. I encourage you to do that today, because that's what I'm doing. That's where I am today. So I'll be sharing the book of Enoch in another video here in the next hour or so. So anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. This is not what I expected when I pressed record, but this is where I was certainly guided. And again, think about where you've been, and hopefully those are indications and indicators of where you are, where you're going, the possibilities, on the good side, the possibilities, and what's possible. Okay? Excuse me. Thank you so much. Thank you, Most High, for this day. Thank you for the synchronicities, the confirmations of the jets. Thank you, or airplanes. Thank you Thank you, Most High. I love you. You are my lover and you are my best friend. And that's supreme. It's superior. It is magnificent. And so, again, thank you so much for tuning in. It was 30:30 when I just looked down at the timer. So thank you. Enjoy your day, and just know that your past doesn't have to tell your future, but at the same time, your past is an indication of your future. But you have to make the right choices in order to manifest the proper fruit on the vine. Okay? So you don't want to produce poison ivy. You want to produce strawberries. So you have to go about it a different way. They both are on vines, right? But they certainly don't do the same thing, right? And they're not the same type of nourishment. So thank you so much. I felt like saying all the best in your day. I don't know. All the best in your day. And yes, so as always, be encouraged. Thank you so much for tuning in.